Hey, Brett, welcome to the show. As a way of getting started, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, hey Brian. So my name is Brett Locksterman. I'm a relationship manager with John Hancock in our mid market. I service um, retirement plan administration for clients ranging from generally about $50 million in assets under management, all the way up to my largest client is about $1 billion in total assets across. I think they have 8 or 10 plans with us overall. So work primarily in service and do participate in our sales kind of finals, pitches type environments where we're working with new prospects.
How'd you get interested in this?
In the retirement space
Yeah.
or in your service?
Well, I mean, selling
Or
financial
your
services.
Yeah. So I started my career at the very base of customer service, working directly with participants. And really, I was able to interact with some clients and really loved that side of things. I feel like the sales process is kind of a showmanship event as well. And I just excelled when they kind of started putting me in that environment in different roles. And so I really like that opportunity. I really like the direct interaction back and forth with clients and stuff. So it's kind of maybe direct sales is maybe a potential goal for me career wise as
Yeah.
well. So just like the process, like the opportunity, the environment.
Cool. And what's it like trying to maintain these relationships and grow them? Is it easy?
No,
No, it's not easy.
no, it's definitely not. It's funny because I was talking to an industry partner the other day, and part of the challenge with um, being on the service side of things, a lot of times is, you don't hear about the good things you do with your clients as
Yeah.
much as you hear about the challenges that we have, and so it's a struggle to kind of keep the mindset of, I am doing these very good things for my clients and I'm helping them with their achievements and I'm doing, all of the things that we're supposed to do, when a lot of times we just kind of hear, hey, you're not doing this for me. I need you to do this. This person's not happy and those types of things. So it's, I just try and help my clients understand that, like, their success is my passion, and
Yeah.
that's what I really want them to take away from working with me. So, kind of try and hide the noise a little bit and make sure that we're doing the things for them that are important and that help them meet those needs.
And how do you do this? Is it face to face? Is it mostly on the phone? Is
Yeah,
it?
so it's kind of different a little bit, varying by market segment. So larger clients, we tend to spend more time with them face to face.
Yeah.
Smaller clients will tend to be more kind of teleconference calls, those types of things. I generally will try and see all of my clients at least once a year, regardless of size. But the bigger ones get more FaceTime. And for me, it's always, it's every time I have kind of a concern about a client, I feel like if I just go out and see them, everything kind of goes away. You sit
Doesn't
in
it?
your
Yeah.
office and kind of like cook up these, you can worry yourself to death, and so you cook up all these scenarios about how upset they are and all this kind of stuff. And then you get there in person and they're like, oh, hey, it's great to see you, and it all just kind of washes away. So that's the part of the job that I love and that is, the most energizing for me.
And I see a lot of leadership not really appreciating that anymore. That when you do show up, because it's a give,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
symbol that you're important enough that I got on a plane or drove hours, and you have a tiny territory too, right? It's very geographically dense.
I'm supposed to. I don't though.
Right.
I go from New Hampshire to Orange County,
Yeah.
so there's. I
So
mean,
you're
there's
not necessarily in the neighborhood, right?
no, I'm not. Yeah, I think it's that's one of the struggles that we have. Frankly, is a lot of the times my primary contact is going to be somebody who would be like a director of benefits or even kind of um, a benefits manager, somebody that's kind of more entangled in the day-to-day operations. And we have really tried to strive over the last couple of years to deepen the relationships with the controller, the CFO, the CHRO, the person, like in certain elevations, there's, another benefits person. And so we've kind of tried to do those types of things. And a lot of times it is difficult because those folks have such limited time, and, you kind of get there and you're the 401k guy and it's like, hey, cool, good to see you, like, tell me what I need to know and, get out of my face. So but, we try and do other things to deepen relationships with those folks, maybe more, non-face-to-face type interactions.
And it being viewed certainly by the market as a commodity, how do you differentiate yourself and block out your competition?
Yeah, I think for us, it's definitely, we've tried to create some products and some things that our competitors are not bringing to the market. And then really I think when we win business is also how we strengthen business, which is really, I feel like it's cliche to say, but it's the people, it's the experience that we bring and the high touch service that we bring to the market really is different than a number of the providers that are out there. So yeah. I think, when we win, it's when folks value that. When we lose, candidly, I think it's when somebody wants a turnkey experience through another provider that's, kind of set up with higher scale or, a bigger brand name or something like that. But I really, I think probably in the last 5 years I've been in this role, I think I've probably done 20-ish sales finals, had a success rate of about 50%. And it really feels more, as I get to this period, the connection that you make really drives kind of how we're going to go. And it's not necessarily all about the what, as much as it is when we're in there, because to your point, we all do kind of the same base things, and figuring out how to make that connection and help these folks understand we're going to take care of them is really kind of, I feel like, when we're able to win and have a good connection.
So when you sense that they don't value that, do you back off?
So in my interaction with, so we sell primarily through intermediaries. So our financial advisors are bringing us to the table to interact with our clients or prospective clients. So a lot of times I'm only getting involved kind of in that very end stage.
Yeah.
So it's tough because I'm only meeting these people for 60, 90, maybe 120 minutes if I get it. And so it's kind of hard for me to really, to kind of peel back, right? Because it's almost like I only get this small amount of time with them. And I kind of struggle with that because my wife works in a similar position, not industry. She interacts with she kind of helps build sales decks and materials for another company. Yeah. And, she hears me talk about it all the time. And they, in their industry, will have these, what they call, I guess, like yellow pad sessions with clients ahead of the pitch.
Yeah.
And that makes a lot of sense to me because you really have a better understanding from them.
What they
a lot of times our advisors that we sell through, sometimes they don't even really know exactly what the client is looking for.
Yeah.
And so I've kind of pitched that to my boss a little bit to say, hey, and my regional sales guy that I work with, to say, we need to ask for this. Like, it's a total differentiator for us to ask to meet the client ahead of the sales final. But we've had a couple situations where we've gone into the room the day before.
The beauty contest, yeah.
Yeah, right. And
with the bikini.
Exactly, yeah. And, we do that, one, because, you're trying to prep for tech, right? Because tech never works. And the second thing is sometimes we've been able to actually meet with the people that we're going to meet with the next day. And it's almost like that first entry hey, I'm a normal person. I'm going to be here tomorrow to meet you. And those have been successful. So I think I'm going to try and work with my guy really to help, just to try and push us towards that
Yeah.
activity. And if we get turned down, okay. But if not, I think it shows folks, we really are interested in making a connection.
And it's kind of a qualifying activity. And it's also what I call divide and concur,
Mm-hmm.
because otherwise you're kind of guessing what they care about.
Mm-hmm.
And you might hit it, but you might not. And I think people today, you turn the PowerPoint on and people just fall asleep, or
Oh yeah.
no matter how captivating you might be as a speaker.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how do you learn about stuff? It's really interactive. It's one-on-one. It's, what do you care about? Oh,
Yeah.
our people are young and they're looking out 30 years. They care about this or that. We have a match, all the things that they care about. And because why do you lose clients? It's because they're unhappy with something else. Somebody came in with some fancy new thing, new shiny object, or they know that person better.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Same. I mean, absolutely. We use the analogy all the time about, the test drive. You're not interested in a car and then you go test drive it and now you want that one, and a lot of times when we're in retention situations, we have clients that have been with us for 20 years, everything's great, nothing's wrong. And they kind of do a due diligence deal. And then all of a sudden they're out the door, and there's,
And it's usually a misunderstanding too, like a test drive.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, the stereo's not surround sound. Oh no, that's the button there.
Yep.
You know,
absolutely. Yeah.
and I use that analogy a lot on the podcast, is because I bought 2 cars recently. One was the best test drive I've ever had, and the other was he just gave me the fob and said, "You're on your own."
Yeah.
And I got into the car and I go, "Can you show me how to start it?" Because it was a button.
Right.
Where do I turn the fob? It was
right. Yeah.
a generational thing.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's where the selling really takes place. Being in that beauty contest, here, come in and do the dog and pony. And I hope you hit the things that we care about and stay away from the things that we don't care about.
Right. Right.
You might have that sensory observation, but then you got different people in the audience. You got HR, benefits, controller, maybe CEO, whoever.
Yeah.
All have very different concerns and interests.
Totally. Yeah. And I think, and I'm sure this is consistent across industry, but there's brand bias that we,
Sure.
That we fall victim to. If you asked any random person on the street, like, who's the top 401k provider in the industry, they're probably going to go, oh, well, that's Fidelity. Like, because Fidelity has TV commercials, right? And they have a marketing plan, and it's just a different,
Huge,
so,
yeah.
So people bring those to those situations, and our intermediaries bring them too. I'm in a kind of, my background is really more diverse than most people in my role, because I've been on the client side. I was an HR administrator at this little airline called Southwest Airlines. And then I worked as an investment advisor / consultant for 2 years as well. So, I've seen everything from what I call all 3 camera angles. And so I try to bring those experiences in, and it's amazing how a lot of times when I kind of explain my background and kind of why it's important for me to be in the room, I'm fascinated by how often I get there's these blank stares from people, and it's like,
they're used to an empty suit. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I've been in your shoes. I actually have the empathy that I can bring to the table to help you. But so many times people, I think, are just kind of like, whatever. It's very interesting to me that doesn't play better, in certain situations. So.
Me too, because I had a similar career path and a different, in the engineering side, then go in selling products to engineers.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew how they thought. and they didn't look highly on salespeople. They saw the
Right.
salespeople as the guy who drove the engineer there to help them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in your space, I'm sure it's insanely difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, we see people buy for the wrong reasons,
Yeah.
and it's frustrating because, you get so emotionally invested in each one of the different opportunities that you go through, and you feel like the snap decision can be made. And I've seen it too, which is I've literally watched my clients make decisions, in an instant, when there's a lot of responsibility around the decisions that they make. And, as an advisor, you would always try and help people understand, there's a lot of kind of behind what the decision that you make, that you document, that, because there's regulatory things involved. And still so many times it doesn't kind of come into the final decision. So, it's even tougher because, we can't on the provider side of things, you can't really say things like that and then kind of usurp your advisor's role as well. But you would still like for them to understand some of those things, right? Like you have fiduciary responsibility here, and that's a big deal. So, deciding to pick a provider based on what 10% of your population may or may not interact with may not be the right thing, So how do you, combating that has been a challenge for us recently as well. So.
And what's it like having to work with and through the advisors? Is that?
It's advisor dependent, honestly, I will say that I feel like I have a better sense of how to do it than a lot of my colleagues, just because I have been there, and the mindset, I totally understand the position that these folks are in. They eat what they kill. If they lose clients, they lose, it's like they literally
commission.
It's so I get it. And the other thing is, a lot of advisors are going to have triple or even quadruple the number of like clients that I personally have. Yeah. So I understand how busy they are. And so I'm constantly trying to find ways to increase efficiency with them, make their lives easier, build their business up. But sometimes it's, some advisors are good with that. Some of them don't think that, sadly, I think a lot of advisors view folks in my role as just kind of like you're the dumb RM guy that got, like you've been around, for a long time. You got pushed up because, where the bodies are buried in the organization, but like, you don't bring anything to the table, and it's sad because I meet with a lot of guys. I had dinner with one of my advisors in LA a couple weeks ago, and we built a good friendship, and he said, "Hey, I don't do this with other relationship managers." He's like, "I'll go to dinner with wholesalers and stuff," but he's like, "You're the only one I go to dinner with." He's like, "Cause you have perspective, and that felt good. But some of those guys, it's like, hey, they don't want to talk to you unless it's,
unless
about
something.
Yeah. So it's, up and down. It's like, you have two relationships to manage for every client deal that I have, so it's challenging and interesting at the same time.
How do you build and earn their respect?
I think a lot of times for me, it's just being completely transparent with them around all situations that we have. I think I learned early on in this business, you cannot overpromise and underdeliver. It just is not, you just can't do it. So you have to be open with people. I always try and just I just try and treat folks the way that I expected to be treated when I was an advisor, which was just give it to me straight. Yep. I think everybody in the 401k industry would agree. We all say, everybody would say this: there are things that go bump in the night. I mean, that's a standard, like industry statement, right? So figuring out how to deal with those as they come, and just being open and honest for me is the way that I think I've developed trust with my advisors. I have some advisors that I will share things that I see other advisors or other groups doing with, if I feel like maybe they have a deficiency or it could be an upsell for them. And I think that you can really help them differentiate themselves. They also feel like you have their best interest in mind. And I think any advisor that would not want that and would not see that as a trustworthy characteristic is probably not somebody I'm going to do well with. Long term.
How do you get rewarded? Is it based off of revenue, total revenue? Is it retention? Is it?
It's a combination. So it's funny because I think about your video about the comp plan, like
you can understand it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it used to be, we used to have, like 4 measurements. Well, it's funny. I've been here 5 years. Initially it was just a, salary and like percentage of salary bonus. Like there was no quantifiable measurements. Then we moved to a scenario where we have kind of 4 individual buckets that are measured. Retention, concession. Well, retention was one, concession budget, new sales, and then there was a discretionary component. Now we have, like, I'm not even being facetious, I think there's 15 different categories of.
It's crystal clear.
Yeah. So, and the challenge is, where I have to kind of pick and choose my battles, like, do I overspend my travel budget so that I can see my clients, but lose that portion of my bonus, to keep the other one. But the main driver is retention. The biggest category is retention. So that, to me, it's like, and that's the name of the game for us with, kind of in-service clients. You have to have retention. You have to keep them.
And what are the signs that you might be losing them?
I've never lost a client to service issues. Whenever I've lost clients, it's been due to like merger and acquisition type activity where the company gets bought. And then, typically kind of the buyer will come in and say, look, we got a, sweet deal with Vanguard or whatever. And so we're picking the business up and moving. But I kind of am like the team's second in command as well. So I do a lot of mentoring with our other team members. And so I help them through some of those situations. And I think a lot of times what I'm seeing with them is revolving around communication, if we're not getting back to our clients as quickly as we need to. Yeah. And then secondarily is price. I mean, our market has literally been driven towards zero in the last 5 years. So, if you're not being proactive with your pricing reviews, you can get caught. And, it's challenging because, at one point it's like, the client's asking you for a reduction, but at the same point, if you go too far with that reduction, then they're like, well, you've been charging me, you've been able to do this for X for so long, and now you can do it for, less than that. Like, that's not cool, and it's really difficult to explain to them kind of how quickly the market can rotate in terms of price.
Yeah. And how about as far as growth? How do you find, or what are the signals for growth? Is it companies just growing, better markets?
Yeah. I mean, again, I, as much as I have experienced and seen, us lose clients due to merger and acquisition, I've also been very fortunate to have clients that are in growth mode and are bringing us businesses that they're picking up. So, I would say in terms of, like an in-service client, growth is purely due to acquisition. In that sense, in terms of new business, I think for us, it really revolves around finding pockets of advisors that we've never worked with before that, kind of will give us a shot, and then we'll realize what we can bring to the table. And then, we could have an advisor that's not done business with us before, and then now 2 years later, they brought us 5 plans, so it's kind of like you find these pockets where you're the hot commodity, and then you can really hammer on that.
Cool. Hey, I appreciate your time today. If people want to connect with you on LinkedIn or social, where do they go?
Yeah, so I have a LinkedIn profile. You can just find me under my name, Brett Locksterman, and that's really kind of the primary one that I use. So yeah, thanks, Brian. Really appreciate it.